Hello there. Why is my camera not working? Oh well. Sorry, it's been a rough day. I guess my other camera isn't working. There we are. Hello there. Welcome to another live stream. Here we're just answering some questions, doing a live Q&A. Sorry, I was running around getting the cat in order. So hello everyone. Welcome for thank you for being here. If you're just showing up, let me know in the chat where you're coming in from, where you are in the world, what you're doing in school, what semester you're in, stuff like that. Do I sound really sick? I feel like I got sick over Thanksgiving, and I feel like I've been really snotty, so I'm not sure if I sound ridiculously sick right now. But okay, it looks like we're going. Let me close that. First of all, I want to ask you a question. This is something that somebody emailed me, and I'm curious about. We have different types of videos on the channel. In the beginning, I was trying to make very condensed, very polished videos that I was trying to take 3 hours of information and condense it down into 20 minutes. And then sometimes I do more relaxed, free-flowing videos that are kind of basically I record stuff live and then edit it down afterwards, and that ends up being a lot longer. So like when you look at the lung channel video, that video is a half an hour long. It's very condensed. But when you look at the liver channel video, that video is like an hour and a half long. And so I'm wondering which one do people enjoy more, or which do you like better? Because basically what it comes down to is when I try to condense all that stuff into a short amount of time, those videos can take several weeks to make all the graphics and everything like that. When I just do a live video, that's very easy to produce more content. So it's like if you wanted a video on yin and yang, I could pull up slides off my computer right now and we could have a yin and yang video done in half an hour. So that's kind of the difference. So I'm curious to know what people think about that. So if you're here in the chat, I think there's a poll thing you can vote. And if you're here on the replay, let me know in a comment. And it's just something I'm interested in, because I think going forward, what I'm going to do is I've been trying to do all of the single herb categories. I think for that, I'm going to do the longer live streams where they're going to be more like an hour or an hour and a half long per category. And if you want the more condensed version, you can go buy the single herb review course. Whereas for the acupuncture videos, I might make those more polished, have them be scripted, have not just off the cuff. So that's what I'm thinking going forward. But let me know what you think about that. I really do sound sick. The other thing I wanted to mention is I got a Vimeo account. So I've started. I'm not sure if anybody actually cares about this, but this is something I'm excited about. I got a Vimeo account, which is another video hosting platform. And so when you go to the website, I started re-uploading some of these videos into Vimeo. And basically what that means is I paid like $600 for this account. And that means there's no ads on it. There's nothing else on it. I can customize the player and stuff like that. And so basically what this means is I'm going to try to, YouTube isn't going to like this, but I'm going to try to kind of get away from YouTube on some of that stuff and have it be up on the website on that player. And that way it just gets us away from YouTube. So it's not like you watch one video and it starts recommending some other video, or it tries to distract you with, hey, go watch this Pokemon video when you're in the middle of watching a video. So at least for some of this core content, I'm going to try to upload all that and put it on the website with this Vimeo player, and there's more privacy, there's not an algorithm, there's no ads and stuff like that. So if you're watching stuff on the YouTube channel, you're like, I hate all these ads. There's like unskippable ads and mid-roll ads. Just go to the YouTube channel or just go to the website, tcmstudy.net, and you can get things that way. And that's kind of what I want to do from now on. Sorry, I'm confused by my buttons. And I'm worried that I sound sick. I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, but I don't remember right now. Anyway, I'm from Balu in South India. Nice. What's the difference between phlegm and dampness? This is a really good question. This is a really good question. I'm not entirely sure if I have a great answer because phlegm and dampness, they seem very similar. They're both yin pathogens. They're both very thick and sticky. They obstruct. They slow things down, and a lot of times dampness can lead to phlegm. So to some extent, there's an overlap, especially when we start getting into things like water dampness versus phlegm rheum, or I think Bensky calls it thin phlegm or rheum, but like it's kind of like water accumulation. So there's kind of some overlap. So I'm not sure I can say something super precise or super concise about what the difference is, but let's see what we can do. So first of all, remember that dampness is we talk about the six evils: heat, cold, dampness, dryness, wind, and summer heat. And these are, we call them the six excesses, the six evils, the six environmental chi. And kind of remember with a lot of these can be either internal or external. So when we talk about wind, we can have wind from the environment, environmental wind, external wind coming in and attacking the body, and that's external wind. Or we can have internally generated wind. If you have liver yin deficiency, liver blood deficiency, liver heat with liver yang rising, that can stir up internal wind. So a lot of these pathogens can be either external, they can come externally from the environment, or then they can be internally generated. And so this is also true with dampness, that we can have environmental dampness. Dampness is clammy, muggy, it's like humidity. It can attack the body from the outside. So we can have an external invasion of dampness from the environment. Or we can have internally generated dampness, that if the spleen is not doing its job properly, that dampness is not being transformed and it tends to accumulate. So with dampness, it can be either an external attack or it can be internally generated. The thing is, with phlegm, there's no such thing as an external attack of phlegm. With phlegm, we say phlegm is a secondary pathogen. Phlegm, there's always something else that's causing the phlegm. And so we could say that dampness can lead to phlegm. So we say that phlegm is a pathological thickening of fluids. So you could have your normal fluids in the body, or you could have water dampness in the body. When that thickens, it congeals into phlegm. But kind of like my first point here is you can just have dampness by itself. You can have dampness attacking your body. You can have dampness coming from the outside and getting into the channels and getting into the joints and causing arthritis. You can have dampness as a primary pathogen. There's no such thing as phlegm as a primary pathogen. Phlegm is always caused by something else. It can be caused by water not moving properly, so it congeals. It can be caused by water dampness not being transformed, so it congeals. Or it can be caused by heat cooking down the fluids and thickening the fluids, forming into phlegm. And so phlegm is always caused by one of those processes. Whereas dampness can just kind of arise spontaneously. Dampness can attack the body from the outside. Dampness can occur but it can also occur like when your spleen craps out on you. So that's one thing. The other thing, again, this is kind of a weird thing where it's like, I've been doing this a while. Like it's one of those things that's hard to explain in simple terms. So dampness is clammy. It's a yin pathogen. It weighs you down. And basically, like what I'm thinking here is, this is why I think studying herbs is a good idea, because we treat the two very separately from an herbal standpoint. And so you'll see different strategies for dealing with dampness and phlegm, and that kind of helps you separate them. So on the one hand, we can have like dampness or water accumulation anywhere in the body, or dampness anywhere in the body, usually from the spleen. But the way we can deal with it is we can transform it, or we can promote urination to get rid of dampness. We have herbs that drain dampness by promoting urination. I don't think you would ever promote urination to get rid of phlegm. I think that's just not a thing. Maybe if you have dampness that's causing phlegm, then that's kind of getting to the root, but I don't think you ever try to urinate out phlegm. Phlegm, we usually talk about phlegm as sputum that you can cough out, so something that collects in the lung, but we also have insubstantial phlegm, and that just manifests in certain particular ways. So we can have insubstantial phlegm misting the heart orifices, causing Shen problems. We can have phlegm causing nodules like goiter and scrofula. We can have phlegm obstructing the qi, like plum pit qi. And so we would say those are specific manifestations of phlegm, and those are not, and that's different from dampness, where dampness could just be your body feels heavy, it's encumbering your spleen, so you can't digest your food, you have loose stools because the dampness is encumbering your spleen, things like that. So it's kind of like they also manifest differently. But again, when we get into things like insubstantial phlegm and phlegm rheum versus dampness, it gets kind of confused. I feel like I just kind of babbled for a long time, and I'm not sure if that made any sense. So I might have to think about this one and like write it down, because it's kind of a complicated question, and kind of think of like a more structured way to explain the difference there, because I feel like I just kind of rambled for 10 minutes and it may not actually made sense. Can you explain the difference between yin fire and empty heat? This one, again, if you want to go to herbs, go to a formula book and look up, you can look up Dabu Yin Wan or one of the Di Huang Wan, like Zhibai Di Huang Wan. Basically this, oh no, my cat is digging up the carpet. Basically a simple way to think about it is yin fire is just more exuberant heat. When we just have yin deficiency, here, hold on a sec, my cat is destroying the carpet. Meow, you can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that. Okay, well, now the cat is out and about. I had locked him in the bedroom, and now he's out and about. And so if at some point it looks like the camera tipped over, that's because of my cat. In fire and empty heat. Basically, you're going to see more exuberant heat. When we just have yin deficiency, we can see a lot of signs of dryness. Stop that. We can see a lot of signs of dryness, night sweats, things like that, and some heat signs like tidal fever or heat in the five hearts. When we get into yin fire, it's more intense. That's when we start seeing things like steaming bone disorder. Hello there. Yeah, you're causing problems. I'm trying to do a thing and you're causing problems. Don't start pressing the buttons. Anyway, yin fire. Go and look at Dabu Yin Wan. And one of the interesting things about yin fire is it says the pulse is forceful in the rear position. So normally with yin deficiency, we would expect the pulse to be thin, rapid, because there's not enough yin substance to fill up the vessel. The pulse is going to be thin, it's going to be rapid because of the heat. But when you get into yin fire, where the pulse will actually feel forceful in the rear position. And so that's a really interesting thing to look for in terms of yin fire. So again, if you go in Bensky, I remember in school somebody printed out like a 3-page article on it, but if you go in Bensky, he does have some stuff on the specifics of what is meant by yin fire. I can't remember all of it off the top of my head. But yeah, go look under the Tanafai Yin category around either Liu Wei Di Huang Wan or Dabu Yin Wan, and he kind of has like several pages if you want to go into more detail. But in terms of clinical manifestation or like treating with herbs and stuff like that, I would say that's the difference is you have more intense heat. So it's not just about like, I feel a little bit warm and dry. It's more intense heat, and that's one of those characteristic things is the forceful position, forceful pulse. Boop boop ba doo. Max, hello Max, thanks for being here. How can you tell the temperature of the herbs? Basic, like simple way is look them up. They're like basically we've documented them and more or less agreed on them. thousands of years ago, Shenong tasted all of the herbs, and he had a stomach that looked like a window, so he was able to taste the herbs, look at his window of a stomach, and he could tell the properties in terms of taste and temperature. To do it yourself is going to be very difficult. Because a lot of times we look at it in terms of the effects of the herb. And so we can, like some herbs, like we know they're hot or cold. Some herbs, not really deduce, we induce it based on their action. So it's like, if I drink a lot of coffee and I start to get acid reflux and my heart starts pounding in my chest and my pee turns yellow and my tongue turns red, I know that that's an effect of heat, so that I can go backwards and say, oh, coffee must be hot in temperature. Whereas I drink a lot of green tea, some people drink green tea and they start getting a stomach ache that they might feel cooler, or they just it upsets their digestion because the green tea is cold in temperature, and so that cold is having an effect on the spleen. So we can kind of go backwards and say, oh, based on these symptoms, that's a sign that green tea is cold. Meow, stop that. You can't dig the carpet. Meow. Yeah, no digging. No digging. Sorry, he's been doing this thing where he likes to dig up the corners of the carpet. I'm definitely not getting my security deposit back. So basically, I would say don't try to understand the temperature. Like, just look them up in a book. It's really not that interesting. Why? There's nothing under there. You don't need to dig anything up. You have your toys to play with. Okay. Sorry, if we end early, it's because I'm sick and my cat is causing problems. He was at home on the farm for the last couple weeks, and so I think he's used to being outside and running around. And now he has to be inside. What is a good source to look up herbs? Materia Medica. So go to the website. I think I have them on the website. Resources, book recommendations. If you're not actually studying in a school, Ancient Wisdom, Modern Kitchen, this was written by one of my herb teachers, actually two of my herb teachers and his not wife. It kind of goes through the properties of things you'll be able to find in the store. So it goes through a lot of food things. So we'll give you the properties of common foods either you would find in a Western grocery store or things you would commonly find in an Asian grocery store. If you're studying, then go for one of the either Bensky's Materia Medica or the Chen and Chen Materia Medica. It's a textbook of herbs. So that's how we look at herbs. Hey Patrick, thanks for being here from the Netherlands. Appreciate you being here. Hello from Slovenia. Thanks for being here from Slovenia. Hello from France. Bonjour, bienvenue. I've had a couple of people commenting saying they wanted my videos translated into French, and it turns out like I spent 6 months in Belgium, but that was like 20 years ago. My French is not that good, so if anybody wants to translate things into French, let me know. Apparently there's a lot of people in France who watch the videos, so I'm not sure my French is good enough to actually do an entire video in French. About the kidneys, the specific of the two kidneys is the yang or yin. Yes. Yeah, so this actually comes from a statement in the Nanjing. So we have, when we talk about the classics, there are two main classics that we talk about. The Huangdi Neijing, the Yellow Emperor's Inner Canon. The Yellow Emperor's Inner Classic, and that's the one that came first. That's it's up as a conversation between the Yellow Emperor and his physician Chi Bull, and so that's our first classic. Later, they came out with a sequel called The Nanjing, the Classic of Difficulties, and that's more of like a Q&A. There are 81 difficult issues that it goes through, and in one of those, I don't remember which one, but in one of those difficult issues, it talks about, it doesn't outright say that one is yin and one is yang, but it says, it's more like, it says the left kidney houses the true yin and the true essence, whereas the right kidney houses the ministerial fire. And so when we say that, we can say, oh, the kidney essence is yin, so the left kidney is kidney yin, whereas the right kidney is the ministerial fire for kidney yang. So that's kind of a statement from the Nanjing. And that kind of comes up a lot. Like we can also, a lot of people think that with a pulse as well. So that when you take the pulse on the right hand in the rear position, that's telling you about kidney yang. When you take the pulse on the left hand in the rear position, that's telling you about kidney yin. And this is actually kind of interesting because, like, in terms of like Taoism, that's actually the opposite. Normally we would say that left is yang and right is yin. And kind of the way I would interpret that is, usually in China, we say the emperor is in the south or the sage faces the south. So if you're facing south, then the sun is going to rise on your left side. And if you're facing south, the sun is going to set on your right-hand side. And so that's why left is yang. It's when light is growing in the sky. And right is yin. It's when the sun is going down and darkness is starting to come on. So technically, just in terms of yin and yang relationships, really we should say that left is yang and right is yin, but in the body it gets switched, or at least the way we interpret it gets switched. And this is actually a really common thing that we do the opposite. Since yin and yang balance each other out, we do the opposite. So like when you say front mu points are on the yin side of the body, but they treat yang conditions, whereas back shu points are on the yang side of the body, but they treat yin conditions. Or when we talk about the 5 shu transport points, if we add in the yuan source points, really we could say that on the yin channels, there are 5 shu transport points, but on the yang channels, there are 6 transport points because yuan source is a different point. And so it's like there's a yin number on the yang channels and there's a yang number on the yin channels. Again, I'm just rambling here, but to answer your question, that comes from the Nanjing, where we say that the left kidney holds the kidney essence and the right kidney holds the ministerial fire. And so that's why I say the left kidney is yin and the right kidney is yang. Yeah, he's cute. He's been causing problems, though. He's been digging up my carpet. He's been kind of chompy lately. Dude who's really good with flashcards. Yeah. I know. I think Thomas Frank is his name. And so, oh, not YouTube Studio. Let's just go to my channel. And so if you just click on my face and it goes to my channel, if you go down here, one of these playlists is studies. And yeah, Thomas Frank is down here. The first 3 videos are my videos, and the last 2 I just linked to Thomas's videos. He has Study Less, Study Smart, which is good, and the most powerful way to remember what you study, that's about flashcards. And it's good to check out his channel in general. Just he created a website and a YouTube channel that was for college students studying in college. So it's a lot of good study stuff. It's a lot of good test taking strategies and stuff like that. But yeah, he has this video where he talks about using flashcards, and either using actual flashcards that you make, or there are certain apps that are like adaptive, that you can put all the information in an app. And then it's kind of the idea here is you want to study efficiently. And so you want to prioritize the things that you don't know. So it's like if you're flipping through all your flashcards, it could be that you have 50 flashcards, 25 of them you know really well. You get them right every time. That's good. If you get them right every time, put them in a separate pile and don't study those as much. Where if you have 10 flashcards that are hard for you to remember, study those more often and put those in a pile that you would study more often. So maybe as you go through your flashcards, if you get it right, put it in the right pile. If you get it wrong, put it in the wrong pile, and then at the end pick up your wrong pile and go through it again and keep doing that until you get them all right. And then there are apps you can get on your phone that will do that automatically for you as well. Hi from Vancouver. I was gonna say I know a few people from Canada, but I think they're mostly from Toronto. I think Zach Louis is from Toronto, and I think I have a lot of students. Yeah, the cat doesn't really have a name. We just meow at each other, so that's why I like yell meow. You could say it's like, oh, I'm actually calling him Sun Sun Meow, but I just meow at him or call him Kitty. Or he actually doesn't meow very often. He trills more than he meows. So it'll be like, and so that's when I want to call the cat. That's what I use. I go, he makes that noise more than an actual meow. Usually, if it's a clear meow, it means he's in distress, like he's locked himself in the pantry or something like that, and that's like a loud meow. Otherwise, it's just more of a trill or a chirp. Ever see yin and yang separate in a clinic space? Not really. I think that you would. I did do a shift in a hospice, but I wasn't actually there when people were dying. So I think that's usually when we say yin and yang are separating, that's like they're dying. And sometimes we say that's a thing when you'll have a person who's getting really bad. They're on their deathbed and they suddenly get better. They're suddenly like they've been only kind of semi-conscious and not much is going on, but then suddenly they get better and people think, oh, they're recovering. It's actually no. It's the yin and yang are separating. That there's this last bit of yang rising up and that causes them to wake up and be active. But that's a sign that they don't have a lot of time left. I kind of saw that with my mother when my mother passed away, but I'm not sure if that was like an actual separation of yin and yang or if that's just they took her off her medications because she was in a hospice situation. So the drugs that were keeping her alive but were also making her drugged up, they took those away. So it could have just been that she was no longer experiencing the side effects of those medications, and that's why she appeared to be more lucid for a period of time. Yeah, I'm on Quizlet. I actually haven't used Quizlet very much, and so I'm not sure if it has that adaptive strategy of putting your cards into different things. But I think in that video, he might mention a few apps on your phone that are do it. Some of them might be paid apps too that can be, again, adaptive. So it shows you less of what you already know, but then repeats the things that you don't know. More about Shang Han Loon. The only one I feel kind of bad about this. I've only really used one Shang Han Loon book. This one. By Weissman, Feng Ye and Nigel Weissman, Craig Mitchell. So this is the one in school. This is really the only one I really looked at, and so I think they have translations. It's kind of the thing with like a lot of these books. The actual text is very short and very concise, and they don't actually explain a whole lot. So this one, I think it has some translations and then some commentary on it too, because the actual Shang Han Loon is like not very exciting. It's like when you have this symptom and this symptom and this symptom, Guizhi Tong governs, and it's just kind of like, here are some symptoms, here's the formula you use. And so it's kind of like we left it to later generations to figure out why he said that or what he was actually thinking. And sometimes it leads to interesting things where it's like we're not really sure what he was thinking. And so we get some formulas like Chai Hu Jiao Longu Muli Tong and stuff like that, or Guizhi Jiao Longu Muli Tong, where the way we use it now, like Zhong Zhong Jing was using it in a very specific way, but the way we use it now is completely different. So basically, it's one of those things. Like if you just went and got the Tao Te Ching and read it, and it's like, the Tao that can be followed is not the true Tao. The name that can be named is not the true name. When you stretch a bow to its utmost, you have gone too far. It's like just those statements don't really make a lot of sense. You might need like a Taoist teacher to explain what they were trying to say with that. Kind of the same thing. I'm not sure it's good to just read a translation of a classic. You, at least in the beginning, you might want someone who can give it some context. Hi from South Africa. Hi from California. It's been like 20 degrees here, so we were missing California. Hi from Florida. I hope Florida's doing okay. I actually backed out of going to Florida. Hi from Ireland. It's kind of cool that there's so many people from all over the world. Like, I just thought it would be like me and 10 students from California. So it's kind of cool that people from all over the world are coming. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. Anki is the premier open source flashcard app that uses spaced repetition learning. Okay, yeah, so that's good. I'll have to look that up. Anki, I'll have to look that up on the App Store. So, now I can't find my thing. Oh, there we go. I was trying to find my little poll. Yeah, so again, at the beginning, I started a poll that was like, do you prefer like the shorter, more concise, condensed videos, or do you like the longer, more conversational videos? And kind of the idea there is, in the beginning, before pandemic was a thing, when I was making videos, I was trying to make them for like review videos for my students. So the idea was you went to a 3-hour lecture in person, and then this was like a 20-minute review that would just cover the main points and do it very quickly. And so it was just meant as a review. After pandemic, I think that people started taking all of their classes online. And so it was a lot of Zoom classes. So I kind of transitioned into this longer form of doing things live and doing things not scripted, just off the cuff and more conversational. And so I'm not sure which one people like better, because when I did the short ones, I thought like, oh, I'm just going to condense all the information into a short video. People would be like, oh yeah, I watched that video 5 times. It's like, well, if you watched it 5 times, then maybe I should just slow down and repeat myself more so you don't have to watch it 5 times. So that's that. What's going on here? Sorry, this is showing something up on my screen, and I'm not sure if we're like at the same spot. Let me close YouTube. YouTube's silly. It's a silly place. Let's not go there. So if you have any more questions, let me know. Let me make sure, or just like ping the chat so I know that we're still live. Because I'm not sure if I'm actually still going. There I am. Okay, I think it was just YouTube Studio was being weird. There I am. Hi, me. Okay. From Oregon, make sure my chat. Max from Oregon, hello from South Africa. Okay, I'm just making sure because it's like there's some chats that are showing up in the YouTube. There we go. I think we just got a delay. TCM Clinic Aid is an app for quick search. Yeah. That's a good like phone reference. I think that's the one that's like when they make HP Kim makes that pocketbook, like a little clinical manual you can carry around in your lab coat pocket. I think TCM Clinic Aid is like the sorry, I'm distracted by coffee now. TCM is a good resource if you want to like quickly look up points and stuff like that. I think for learning, I know a lot of people like the Deadman app. I think the Deadman app is like $40, but he has like videos showing you all of the point locations and stuff like that. So I know a lot of people like the Deadman app. They just think it's expensive because that's a lot to pay for an app. I agree, but do you like coffee? Yeah, lately I've been drinking a lot of coffee. Like this is tea. I'm kind of sick, so I got some ginger tea. But lately I've been drinking coffee or usually not straight espresso, but I like mochas. I'm kind of into chocolate, so I drink. So if I like go to a coffee shop, I usually get a mocha. And it's kind of like I have this really cute tea set that I never use. I should probably like because I had some friends who would do like Chinese tea ceremony. I think Chinese tea ceremony is a little bit different from Japanese tea ceremony. I think Japanese tea ceremony is much more formal. There's a lot more ritual to it, whereas Chinese tea ceremony is just like, how do we make this tea taste really good? So I knew some people who did Chinese tea stuff, and I have a little tea set. I should probably do that. Either sit down and drink some tea or sit down and drink some bourbon or something like that. I'm very interested to see how I will be able to incorporate Chinese medicine with my shamanic medicine. I'm starting a healing business. Yeah. So if you go, do I still have a button for this? If you go to the podcast, look for stuff. There's a guy I have on there a couple times. I think he's from Toronto. So get rid of that. If you go to podcast.tcmstudy.net, let's just go to episodes so you can see them in order. If you see stuff with Zach Louis in it, I'm trying to think of where the first one is. Not Zachary, that's a different Zach. Medical Qigong with Zach, protect yourself from... I think I did one before. I thought I did an earlier one with Zach. Maybe not. Maybe that was the first one. Anyway, Zach, he's a really cool guy. He's a shaman, master in medical Qigong, and also does traditional Chinese medicine. He teaches and practices. So he's someone that his background is he started doing Qigong like as a child from like Chinese people in Canadian Chinatown. And basically his teacher told him he had to learn acupuncture, so he went and learned acupuncture, but he does have a shamanic background and stuff like that. So that might be interested to listen to those. And then he probably has, I think he has a podcast as well. I want to say it's like Deeper Down the Rabbit Hole. And so he has a podcast as well, and then some he has some his own courses and stuff like that. Yeah, Deeper Down the Rabbit Hole is his podcast. He does Qigong in Toronto, and then oh yeah, this might just be his practice. Yeah, pop-up email. I've been trying to not do that. But so I thought he has some courses and stuff like that too with his master. So that might be an interesting thing to look up. Oh, I guess maybe that website doesn't work anymore. I'll have to update that. Anyway, so if you he's a shaman and does shamanic stuff as well, and so he talks about some really cool stuff. So yeah, go check out that. He's a really cool guy. He's a really cool guy, and he's doing some really cool things too. From Nelson, British Columbia, first semester. Thanks for being here. Yes, yeah, and so I want to thank you for the Meridian notes. So what I want to do is, basically in my school, we divided your first year, you do points 1, points 2, points 3, and we divide the 14 channels into those 3 semesters. And so basically, like, I taught points 1 for a couple semesters, and so I just put up my notes for points 1. And so if you go on the website, there's all those notes and things for what we called points one, which was introductory stuff, some basic channel theory, point categories, and then the first four channels: lung, large intestine, stomach, spleen. So all of that stuff is up there on the website. I kind of want to redo some of those videos because some of those were like my first videos and they're kind of awkward. So like the large intestine video has like music playing in the background because I thought that's a thing that people did on YouTube. And the stomach channel, like it's like really awkward in terms of camera presence and stuff like that. So I want to redo those, but all those are done. I want to re-record some herb stuff for my herb review courses, so I'm going to try to get that done over the next month. And then starting next January with a new semester, go back and get through all the channels because people keep bugging me about the channels, about getting those videos done. So I'm gonna try to get those videos done. After that, I need to start making money. So if you see me doing a bunch of sponsorship deals, like why is this guy pushing NordVPN on his acupuncture channel? It's because I need to pay my rent. So that'll be coming up. So that's something I want to do. That's kind of the plan for the next year is I first want to re-record some stuff on the herb review courses. There's a single herb review course and a formula review course. So I'm going to, again, the single herb review course, that was like my first time making a course. And after I got through it, I was like, oh, I should have done this differently. And so I want to go through and re-record some of that stuff. And so both of those courses will be done and they can be there forever. Spoiler alert, I'm probably going to raise the price at the beginning of next year. And then after that, first I want to go through all of the channels. So we have lung, large intestine, stomach, spleen, heart, SI, UB, kidney, pericardium, sinus, gallbladder, liver, and Ren and Do. So all of those will be there. They will be free on the website. So if you like those, they'll be free, but please join the Patreon or do something like that. And then after that, I might try to get into some fundamental stuff, some of the FCM1, FCM2 stuff, and those might be like courses as well. So that's kind of the plan moving forward. I've kind of realized that a lot of people are asking about like review stuff for boards, and I've just kind of realized like I don't know very much about boards. I feel like there are other people who know a lot, who are like up to date on what's going on with boards and nationals and what the trends are, what kind of questions they ask and stuff like that. And I don't keep up on that kind of stuff, and I'm not really interested in keeping up on that kind of stuff. So if people like to use the stuff for studying for boards, that's great. Please do that. But I think my goal in this is going to be more about helping students who are first starting out. And then if you need to review for boards, go buy Bina's course or go buy Linda Morse's course, because I don't want to deal with all that auricular and scalp stuff that they put on boards. So how are we doing? 42 minutes. We can do a couple more questions. So if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. I'm not sure if the chat is going or if I died. I had some questions. Oh, here, this is a good one. In the breakdown of smooth versus choppy, so this is a pulse question. In the breakdown of smooth versus choppy, I'm curious if a smooth pulse is indicative of something wrong or if it's an aspect of a healthy pulse. This is a good question, and I'm sorry if this wasn't clear in the video. Yeah, when you say a smooth pulse or, that button doesn't work. A smooth pulse, or we would say a slippery pulse, hua am I, or a rolling pulse, hua am I. When we say that, we're just describing the feeling of the smoothness of the pulse. So that's just describing what we're feeling under our fingers. After we can describe what we're feeling, step 2 is then, what does it mean? Does it even mean something bad, or is it okay? Or if it does mean something's wrong, what's going on? And so with a case of a slippery pulse or a rolling pulse, that's describing the quality of a smooth coming and going. And that can be an indication that someone is perfectly healthy, that they have an abundance of qi and blood, and that's why you feel the pulse flowing smoothly. So it could be a perfectly fine thing. It could be but it could also be a sign that something is going wrong. So if if the blood is moving in that smooth motion, it could be that there's something propelling it along. Like there could be heat causing the pulse to become slippery and move in that rolling fashion. It could be that there's either dampness or phlegm. That dampness and phlegm, as yin pathogens, have this very slippery quality, and so the fact that there's dampness in the channels will be reflected in the pulse as a smoother, slippery pulse. Sometimes if someone is just pregnant, they have a very slippery pulse. That's sometimes how you can deduce. That's a way to tell if someone's pregnant or not. If they have a very slippery pulse, it might be like, this person might be pregnant, is traditionally what they might have done. So it can be normal, or it can be a sign that there's something else, that there's something going on. It can be a sign of imbalance. And so that's why if you feel a slippery pulse, step one is you feel the pulse and you feel like, oh, this feels slippery. Step two is assigning a meaning to that feeling. So it could mean that the person is just healthy, they have an abundance of qi in blood, or it could mean something else. It could mean they have dampness, phlegm, heat, or some other thing. And so you have to do further investigation. And this is true with a couple different types of pulses. The same thing is true with what we call a moderate or a relaxed pulse. A moderate pulse is a pulse that's verging on slow. It's about 60 beats per minute, but has a relaxed quality, that it's not wiry or anything like that. And that could be perfectly healthy. That could be that the person is an athlete and they just have a very relaxed pulse because they're used to doing a lot of cardio. But it could also mean there's qi in blood, there's qi deficiency, that there's not enough qi pushing the blood through the vessel, and so you feel the pulse as being very relaxed. So it could go either way there. Boop, boop, ba-doo. So make sure we're still going. So that's a good question. So it's kind of like when you're taking pulses, it's like a two-step of, first, you're just trying to sensitize your fingers and ascribe a name to what it is that you're feeling. Is it slippery? Is it choppy? Is it fast? Is it slow? And then after that, you can start trying to attach a meaning. And a lot of times, you're going to have to ask more questions. And so even if it's a diseased pulse, if your pulse is choppy, that could be caused by several things. If the blood is not flowing smoothly, that could be a sign of stagnation, but it could also be a sign of deficiency, things like that. So usually we have to ask more questions. I'm glancing back at my YouTube to make sure we're still going. I get nervous here, and I kind of want to. Never mind. I was going to say I kind of want to live stream not on YouTube. But I shouldn't say that because YouTube will hear me and demonetize me. So there's Jabi. When I have acupuncture on my wrist, I feel like it hits a nerve and sends a very uncomfortable shockwave up my arm. So uncomfortable that I hesitated going back. The practitioner said it was the heart meridian and supposed to feel that way. Yeah, I don't know about that. I think some people will say that. I guess here, I'll tell you a story. One of my friends, actually this is Patrick. Again, if you listen to the podcast, Patrick is a guy from Kentucky I talk to a lot. I mean, he was needling me once. I want to say it was kidney 7. It was something on the kidney channel. I don't think it was kidney 1. I think it was kidney 7. But he was doing acupuncture, and he has a very aggressive style of needling. It's very effective, but it's also aggressive, I think, is an appropriate way to describe it. His wife is much more gentle. His wife is a little bit more Japanese style about it. He's much more TCM. We're going to strap you down to a board and stab you with needles until you get better. So he was going to needle kidney 7, and he's like, okay, you're going to feel some electricity go to your big toe. And jab the needle in. And on the one hand, it was very interesting because it was that same kind of electric shock, like you hit a nerve, but you could actually feel it go down. And you know how the kidney channel does that little curly cue around the malleolus? You could actually feel it go down and curly cue, do that little loop, and then go down into kidney 1. And so on the one hand, it was very interesting, but I was kind of like, bro, what are you doing? And he was like, oh, that's the chi. That's the chi moving. I'm like, no, it's not. And so in my opinion, no, that's not a thing. when you look at the classical descriptions of like what it means, what about the getting of chi, the de chi, and the arrival of chi, chi jur, I don't think that's what they were describing. I think it's more of a subtle thing. If you feel that shockwave, that just means the person hit a nerve with your needle, and no, that's not necessary. It's not a bad thing, but it's not like, oh, it's supposed to feel that way. No, it means you hit a nerve. And so I think normally when we talk about de chi and chi, it's more of a warm sensation, a spreading sensation, a dull ache, and it's more of a, when I think of like chi on a point, it's something that when you get the chi, you can feel it and it lasts for a long time. So it's kind of like when you're doing qi gong and you feel like this sticky stuff between your hands, or sometimes you just do qi gong and like do like meditation with your palms face up. It kind of feels like your palms are filling up with something, and it's like a sustained feeling. It's not like, oh, I got a shock of electricity and now it's gone. That I don't think that's chi. I think that's a nerve. And so when you feel chi, or when you feel chi moving into something, it's more of a, it's not quite as sudden, and it's more of a long, sustained thing. I think that's what we mean by the arrival of chi, not a shock wave going up your arm. And so, like when I needle, I like once had some students at school when I was needling some people, and they described it as like, oh, it's you have very intense needling. Your needling is very intense. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? Is it painful? Do I need to do it? Like, is my insertion bad? And they said, no, the insertion is totally fine. When you stick the needle in, I barely feel it. It's after the needle is in, I feel this very intense sensation, and like a heavy, like I don't know if they describe it as like a heaviness or a dull ache, but they feel like a very intense sensation after the needle is in there and when I start manipulating it. And to me, that's the arrival of chi, that the chi comes after you stick the needle in. If you stick the needle in and you feel a shock, that means the person hit a nerve. It happens sometimes, even if you're a very skilled practitioner, you don't know where all the nerves are. Same thing with bleeding. Like when a point bleeds, sometimes it just happens. You hit a capillary. You don't know where all the capillaries are in everybody's body because they're different. The nerve pathways are not the same in everybody's body. So it's just a thing that happens. But is that the sensation of chi? Is it supposed to feel that way? In my opinion, no. Other people would say yes, that is a de chi sensation. In my opinion, that is not true. That's not the case. I was going to say, normally on the heart, I don't think I've ever hit a nerve on the heart. It's much more common on the pericardium channel when you're going between the two tendons. And so I think there are, I want to say Matt Callison, there are some people who have some techniques where they will stick the needle in and they will bend it and try to go around the median nerve. And so that's kind of an advanced technique. But I would say normally that like if you stick a needle into LI4 and you feel a shock, you hit a nerve, and that's not necessarily what you're going for. Join the Patreon so Nicholas can pay rent. Yeah, join the Patreon. I've been trying to actually put things on the Patreon lately. And so that was kind of an interesting thing when I first started the Patreon. Usually it's like you have a Patreon feed and you have extras that you give to your Patreon only members. And I was kind of weird about that because I didn't want to be like, this is special content that's behind a paywall. I didn't necessarily want to do that, at least in the beginning. But it was also difficult because I would try to ask people what kind of things do you want to see in the Patreon? Do you want special notes, or do you want behind the scenes stuff? And most people are like, no, we don't really care. We just want to give you money. I'm like, okay. So I try occasionally to put things on that Patreon feed as some sort of incentive, but sometimes it's like I spend this time making a Patreon only video and 10 people watch it. I'm like, well, I would rather spend that time making a video that everyone could watch rather than rather than Patreon. Thanks for the herb lectures. When you say, so there are some herb lectures that are free on the website, and then there's also an herb review course. So I'm not sure when you enlist in them, I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but either way, thank you. Those are on the website. I was going to try to go an hour, and we're almost there, so I might cut it off after an hour because I'm not feeling real great. And I was gonna try to do a couple lectures tomorrow. I like planned out this thing to do like a formula family review, but I can tell that like uh, talking is difficult is more difficult on my throat than I thought it would be. So hopefully I survive until tomorrow. Do you have any more questions here? So this is about point location. Is the height and width of the patella too soon? I've never seen the width of the patella use or too soon. Deadman uses the height as too soon. So here we're talking about the location of either stomach 34 or spleen 10, where we say it's too soon above the superior border of the patella. How do you use your too soon? Yeah, in Deadman, he uses the height. Let's see if we can do this. He uses the height of the patella. The problem with this is what we discovered when I was TA for a while, and then I was a teacher. And one of the things we discovered is a lot of people have trouble with just the height of the patella. So when you say the height of the patella is too soon, you have to make sure you're feeling the borders of the patellar bone. Sometimes what would happen is people are like, "Oh, the patella," and they grab both the patella and the patellar ligament, and they'd end up with this huge too soon, and they'd be feeling get up to like spleen 12 instead of spleen 10. So if you can do the height, just make sure you're grabbing the borders of the bone, but it's pretty much the same as the width. And so we would just always say the width because it's more difficult to screw up. If you do the width, the patella is about a square. If you do the width at the center, don't go to the top or the bottom, but go to the center, that's also going to be too soon. And we just said it that way because fewer people would screw it up. When we did the height, people would, instead of going like this, they'd go like this. And that wasn't right. So hopefully that makes sense. And another one we would do is, I think in Deadman, he says the iliac crest goes to the bottom of L3 I think he says L3. And in school we would always say L4, and basically we had an anesthesiologist say it was L4. So that's another one that I might say is different, that when you're like, if you're trying to locate do4, go to the iliac crest and that'll line you up with L4. Deadman will say L3. I think either way you should check. So after you do that iliac crest, count down and make sure you're hitting the sacrum, then count back up to L2 to make sure you're getting the correct vertebrae. So that's just one that when I was in school, we always said L4, but I think Deadman says L3. And I think that also just depends on like how you're palpating it. And how even like that, and the other thing is a lot of people don't go straight across to like grab the iliac crest and then they'll go like this. It's like, oh yeah, it lines up. It's like, no, you have to be straight. but either way with the back, I'd say it's not a great either way. It'll get you in the general area, but you should still check. And then usually it's easy to feel the transition from lumbar vertebrae to sacral vertebrae, so you can kind of get in the general area, go down one or two, and make sure you're hitting the sacrum. It should be fairly obvious when you're hitting the sacrum. Then count back up from there. Our professor teaches the meridians out in the Neijing, and he says that lung 1 and 2 points are not on the lung meridian. That's interesting. I've never heard of that. Is that how you understand it as well? No, I mean, in all of our modern textbooks, I don't think we've ever. I've never even heard that mentioned in our modern textbooks. The problem is we have a lot of reverence for the classics, but to be honest, there are a lot of things in the classics that we just don't do anymore, are just not true anymore, and so it's like there are a lot of, if you want to strictly adhere to the classics, I feel like Chinese medicine has evolved a lot since those initial classics, especially since the Neijing. I think the Nanjing is a little bit more, I mean, it only came out 200 years later, but there's still a lot more in it. But like, so there are certain things in the Neijing where like the Neijing, they talk about taking the pulse in several different locations. Even when you read the Shanghan Lun, at the beginning of the Shanghan Lun, Zhong Zhongjing goes on this rant about like, oh, these modern practitioners, they only take the pulse at the wrist. They don't even bother to take the pulse at all three locations. Yeah, it's just because they're being lazy. And it's kind of like people, it's like, oh, these kids and their internet, they just type on their phone instead of reading the encyclopedia. Zhong Zhongjing was doing the same thing where it's like, oh, these practitioners, they don't even bother taking the pulse in all three locations. And that was like 1400 years ago. And so my point here is like, yes, in the classics, you took the pulse in several different locations. I think really early on, there was a pulse associated with each channel. That if you wanted to feel the state of the qi in the stomach channel, you would take the pulse at stomach 41, 42. If you wanted to feel the qi in the kidney, you take it at kidney 3, stuff like that. Later, they went down to 3 pulses. So there's a pulse at stomach 9, the pulse at lung 9, and the pulse at kidney 3. And then later, people said, oh, we don't need to do that. We can just take the pulse at the wrist, the Tsun Kuo, the inch opening. And so that's something that's evolved over time. So if you go back to the classics, it might say you need to take the pulse in 3 different locations. But in modern practice, nobody does that because the medicine has evolved. And so I think there are a lot of things like that in the Neijing where it may have, our ideas around that matter may have evolved. So we have other things in Neijing like the points of the 4 C's. We just did this in the point category video where we talked about the C of qi, the C of blood, the C of water and grain, and the C of marrow. Those are mentioned in the Neijing, but like, how often do you see people needle stomach 39? It's just like, no, that's just not something I've seen in a modern clinic where somebody says, oh, you have an excess condition of the C of marrow or something like that. That's just not, I feel like that's not something we see. And so I feel like I totally believe that it says that in the Neijing, but it's also, the Neijing says a lot of stuff that we don't do anymore. I think specifically with regards to points, I do believe there is a section in the Neijing where the Neijing says there are 365 points. One for each day of the year. It says there are 365 points, and then it just lists a bunch of points. And if you go through and count it, that does not add up to 365. I think there they might have only listed 340. But if you go through all the points that we normally use on the 14 channels, there are really only 361. So it's kind of like the Neijing says, oh, there are 365 points, but like, can you name the 365 points that it's talking about? Nobody can. It's just like a statement. Yeah, very confusing there. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in my in that point categories lecture or not. I might thought it was too confusing at that point, but yeah, it's really weird. I'm not sure if there's like a sea of water and grain, but at least it's like we talk about the sea of blood, as in if you have an excess of the sea of blood, your body feels bigger than it really is. If you have a deficiency of the sea of blood, your body feels smaller than it really is, and it gives you some stomach points you can needle. And that's really confusing because spleen 10 is also called shui hai, sea of blood. Same thing with sea of qi. We have this, the Neijing talks about the sea of qi with excess and deficiency signs like shortness of breath or dizziness. But we also, Ren 6 is called Qi Hai, Sea of Qi. So it gets really confusing about, I'm going to treat the Sea of Qi. Like, do you mean the Neijing, the 4 points associated with the Sea of Qi? Or do you mean Ren 6? So I don't know if that was helpful or not. But yeah, I feel like, so first of all, I guess to some extent, does it really matter? Because lung 2, I'm not sure anybody needles lung 2 very often, let's be honest. Maybe if you have like specific shoulder pain in your deltopectoral triangle, then you would need a lung 2, but most people don't really need a lung 2 that often. Lung 1, whether or not you want to call it a lung channel point, it's the front moo point of the lung, so it definitely has something to do with the lung organ. So I feel like when you needle lung 1, zhongfu, whether we want to call it lung 1 or just call it zhongfu, central palace, you're having an effect on the lung, but we should understand you're probably more affecting the lung organ rather than the Han Tai Yin lung channel. So whether you want to call it a lung point or not, it's doing something to the lung, and that's how you'd use that point. Lung 2, whether you want to call it a lung point or not, I feel like nobody actually needles lung 2. So So we're at an hour. I might end it there. My cat's coming in and looking at me, so um, I need to. Tomorrow I'm gonna try to do in the morning, do a short lecture on 8 principal diagnosis. Hopefully that won't take too long. Hopefully it'll only be a half an hour, but that's one of those things that for the last couple weeks I've been just trying to record something simple, do it live, do it as a live presentation, re-record it, edit it, and then re-upload it later. It sounds like right now I'm losing my voice, so hopefully that is still a possibility. And I was also going to do a webinar on formula review, and that would probably be a little bit longer. So hopefully I'll be able to do that tomorrow. It's not looking great right now, but that'll be coming up tomorrow, and then maybe next week we can do something. We'll do the live stream again on Friday, and then on Saturday maybe do like tongue diagnosis or something like that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about now is Friday, just do kind of a Q&A, and then on Saturday do like an actual lecture that will become a real video. And then in the meantime, I'm working on other stuff on the website. The last couple weeks, I've actually just been working on stuff with the email list and website things and Vimeo and stuff like that. But then going forward, I'm going to, like I said, start re-recording some herb stuff for the herb review courses, the paid courses on Teachable. I want to re-record some of those videos. And hopefully that won't take too long. And so when we start next semester, we can start going through all the channels, the 14 channels. So that's kind of the plan for now. Sorry that my voice sounds terrible. And thank you for being here. Come back next week. We'll see. Oh, maybe I should say, if you want to know when the next one is up, I forgot to post on Facebook and I forgot to post on Instagram. Usually I post when things are happening on those two channels. So follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram. The good way to do it is to sign up for the email list. There should be a link down below that says sign up for the email list. And I don't usually at the beginning of the week, I send out a schedule of what we're doing during the week. I'm trying to think of, I was going to try to do this thing. Oh, hey, look, it worked. Try to embed things. If you go to tcmstudy.net/office hours and have everything show up there. And so you don't have to know the link. You can just always go there, and I will update the link with the latest thing. The thing is, I think once you go there, it's like you can. Why are you breaking my internet? So tcmstudy.net/office hours. I think it won't let you chat. If you can like see the chat, but if you try to say anything, it'll just take you to YouTube. And if you click the play, the play button works. There I am. It's Inception. But I think if you want to chat, if you say sign into chat, it's just going to take you to YouTube, which is annoying. Which is why it's understandable from YouTube's point of view, but it's understandable from my point of view that I'd rather have you on my website rather than on YouTube. But anyway, so that might be a thing that in the future, if you want to come to these live Q&As, just go to tcmstudy.net/office hours, and that will always give you the latest one. So the replay of that will be there until next week, and then like on Wednesday or Thursday, I'll update the link. So if you ever want to go there, you can do that. Oh, DJ Vajay. We started like an hour ago. Sorry, bro. I was actually just about to leave, but since you're nice and you asked a question, let's do one more. How do you deal with telling patients that they may feel worse before they feel better? This was an interesting thing. This is actually something I wanted to ask Patrick about when because when I go to over Christmas, I'm going to go home to Illinois, and I'm planning to go down to Kentucky and visit Patrick, and was like, "Hey, if I come visit you, will you record some podcasts?" And his wife said yes. I'm not sure. I actually haven't talked to Patrick. His wife said yes on Patrick's behalf, so I assume that's a yes. But that's one of the things I want to ask you, like when like treating things like this, like the common cold. I've heard some people say that you'll get worse before you get better, and like, is that true? Like you're accelerating the process of the disease, so you might feel worse before you feel better. And is that true? Because I feel like if you're expelling a pathogen, I'm not sure why you would feel worse before you feel better. I feel like if you're like just pushing a pathogen out, it should just be pushed out. But that's specifically in the case of an external attack, because I've heard some people say that about an external attack. With other things, though, I feel like I've said this, and because I kind of feel like in an ideal situation, you wouldn't feel worse before you feel better. You would just feel better. So I'm kind of curious about what situations where that comes up. So sometimes what I say, like a good analogy to tell people is think about you have a bucket of water and you have a bunch of gunk in your water. It's dirty. There's a bunch of dirt and stuff that you don't want in there. Well, over time, all that dirt and gunk just settles to the bottom. And what we're doing is we're reaching in and trying to scoop out all that dirt and gunk. And when you do that, it kind of upsets things. So when you start digging out that goop and gunk out of your bucket of water, the water is temporarily going to look dirtier. And that's what's happening in your body. It's kind of like when you're trying to rearrange your bedroom and put things away. When you move into a new house, when you start pulling things out, it looks a lot worse before you get everything in order. So sometimes just using an analogy like that sometimes in the process of reorganizing, it's going to get worse before it gets better. In the process of digging out the gunk, it's going to look worse before it looks better. Maybe, and it might depend on the specific situation. So I feel like a lot of people say they want to quit sugar. I have a really bad sugar addiction. I eat all the peanut M&Ms and stuff like that. So I'm thinking I should quit sugar and start eating healthier. I'm going to eat vegetables and stuff like that. A lot of people will actually feel worse. And it's really frustrating. You're like putting in all this effort and you're trying to eat vegetables and shit like that. And you're like, I'm eating healthy and I feel worse. What the fuck? And so there we have a very good explanation of you have bacteria in your gut. And the bacteria that flourish feed on certain things. So if you eat a lot of sugar, you're getting a lot of like candida and yeast growing in there. So if you suddenly stop eating sugar, all that candida is going to die. And as it dies, you're like basically the reason you feel like shit is because now your stomach is full of dead candida. And so it's just going to take a while. Or when I remember people saying like they tried to eat more vegetables and it's like, oh, I have so much gas. And it's like, that's just your stomach has to, your gut biome has to adapt to the new diet, has to adapt to all that fiber. So once it adapts, that will go away. If you stop eating sugar and start eating vegetables, there's going to be a process of the bad bacteria dying off and releasing a bunch of toxins and making you feel like crap before the good bacteria comes back in. And so sometimes there's like an actual process like that. Kind of like if you quit smoking, you're going to feel crappy for a while. Does that mean that quitting smoking is bad for you? No. It's just that you've developed a physical dependency on nicotine, and when you take that away, it's going to take a while for your body to normalize back to itself, so there's a transitional period. I'm not sure if that applies to the Chinese medicine or not. So I'm not sure if that applies to, like, I don't know, you got dampness in your spleen. Maybe that's not the same thing. I don't know. But normally you can explain it like that. Or if you look up, I think if you just Google healing crisis, that's a thing. So you can just tell people, oh yeah, go Google healing crisis. What happens if we Google healing crisis? A healing crisis is a temporary worsening of symptoms after you begin a new, it specifically says complementary and alternative medicine treatment. typically lasts only a few days. Also, so it's kind of like this is a thing. So you're like, oh, you're going through a healing crisis. Google it. It's a real thing. There's a picture of a woman drinking water on Google, so it must be true. And so that's something that you can do. But I feel like you can use some analogies, and most people are open to that. It's kind of like I feel like diet is the easiest one, where it's like if you go on keto, there's like a keto flu or a keto fog that people are just like, you feel like you have the flu, you feel some symptoms before you feel better. So I feel like that's something that comes up. So I think that's all. Thanks for being here. Come back next week. Go to tcmstudy.net/office hours. Does my other camera work yet? No, it's still just the googly dots. What's wrong with you? Yeah, like disconnect? What does click start mean? Oh, there we go. There we go. There's my high camera. That's what I was trying to do this whole time. So, thanks for being here. Come back tomorrow and maybe we'll do something on 8 principal diagnosis, or maybe I won't have a voice, or we'll see what my cat's doing too. So, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Have a good weekend. Hi, Jen from Manitoba. Thanks for being here. I think that's everything. Thanks for being here. I'm gonna go, oh no, this isn't even right. That's not right either. What's going on? That's just like my phone screen. That's why it's got the camera, and so I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. I was kind of late this morning because I was dealing with a cat. So we'll see you next week.